Welcome, friends, to another exploration of timeless wisdom here on our Stoic-inspired podcast. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that many of us feel deeply, yet rarely discuss out loud: the challenges men face in relationships and how Stoic philosophy can help us overcome them. Whether you're dating, married, co-parenting, or simply striving to deepen a friendship, relationships can bring out our best and our worst. So why focus on men? Because societal expectations, cultural conditioning, and internal pressures can leave many of us stuck in patterns that undermine our connections. Have you ever wondered why, despite your best intentions, you find yourself snapping at your partner? Or perhaps you hold back your feelings, afraid vulnerability might be seen as weakness. These are common struggles, according to Stoic masters such as Marcus Aurelius Seneca and Epictetus. The key to flourishing in any relationship lies in self-mastery, clarity of mind, and unwavering inner strength. Today, we'll examine 5 key weaknesses men must overcome in relationships, illustrated with stories and insights from the Stoics, and offer practical steps to grow stronger, calmer, and more connected. Let's embark on this journey together. Bring your curiosity, your questions, and your readiness to change. 1. The need for control. Let's take a deeper look at the need for control and feel into why it pulls at us so insistently and how Stoic wisdom can liberate us. Have you ever driven home after a long day only to find your partner upset because you missed an errand? Instantly, your chest tightens. How could they misunderstand my intentions? We all crave certainty. We map out conversations in our heads, rehearse our arguments, and schedule each weekend activity down to the minute. We believe that if we control every thread, we'll weave a perfect tapestry of life and keep our loved ones safe and happy. Yet, in truth, the tighter we grip, the more we suffocate ourselves and those we love. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher who faced rebellions, plague, and political intrigue, reminds us that you have power over your mind, not outside. Events feel the force of that. You cannot dictate another person's smile, another person's mood, or the late bus that disrupts your plans, but you can command your reaction. Imagine Marcus sitting by candlelight in his tent, scribbling these words after a day of chaos. He didn't indulge in self-pity or rage. He chose to train his mind like a disciplined soldier. Study amid uncertainty. This isn't passive resignation. It's an active choice to distinguish between what's within our power and what's not. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, taught that true freedom springs from recognizing this distinction. He tells a simple story. 2 men on a ship, one panics at the slightest wave. The other sits calmly, reading. The sea is no kinder to one than the other. It's their minds that differ. Which man would you rather be? Let's ground this in daily life. You plan a romantic dinner under the stars, roses laid out, music cued, anticipation brimming. Then the sky darkens, raindrops fall, and the restaurant calls to say your reservation has been canceled. Your initial impulse might be frustration, even blame. Why does everything go wrong when I try to do something nice? But pause, do you want to be a hostage to the weather or your own cultivated serenity? In that moment, you can practice Stoic flexibility. Acknowledge your disappointment. I feel sad. This was important to me. Then, gently reframe. The evening can still be meaningful. You move the roses indoors, light candles, and laugh. As you dance in your kitchen, your partner sees your calm acceptance, feels cherished by your creativity, and the memory becomes even more intimate for its spontaneity. This is not mere clever thinking. It's the Stoic art of transforming obstacles into opportunities. Seneca, who endured exile and political attacks, urged us to choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. We can choose to let go of control over externals, our partner's reactions, the weather, the whims of daily life. When we do, we tap into a quiet reservoir of inner strength. We find that relationships thrive not on rigid blueprints but on trust, empathy, and the willingness to adapt together. So next time you feel the urge to micromanage, take a breath, feel into the tightness in your chest, and ask, can I truly control this? If the answer is no, then release it. In that release lies freedom, and in that freedom, the truest gift you can offer your partner, your calm, unwavering presence. to suppressing vulnerability. Have you ever caught yourself stiffening when your partner asks, "How are you really?" as though baring your inner world were a dangerous vulnerability? We build walls of stoic reserve around our hearts, convinced that showing emotion is a slip toward weakness. Yet, as Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. True mastery isn't hiding our feelings, it's embracing them. With clear-eyed courage, let's examine the reasons behind silencing vulnerability. Society teaches many men to wear emotional armor. Tears are shameful, doubts are signs of failure, and admitting fear is a betrayal of strength. But consider the scene Seneca paints of a father at his son's funeral, weeping openly among friends. Rather than scorn him, Seneca praised his bravery, the bravery to feel authentically, even in pain. That father demonstrated that vulnerability is not a fracture in character, but a portal to deeper compassion and genuine connection. Imagine you come home after a long day. Shoulders weighed down by uncertainties, maybe a project at work feels shaky, or worries about money gnaw at you. You greet your partner with silence, a practiced stoic nod, letting your unspoken stress simmer beneath the surface. Night after night, you tuck your feelings away like contraband. Over time, the distance grows. Your partner senses some things off but can't penetrate the barrier you've erected. You both suffer in the silence. Marcus Aurelius, who faced betrayal and even a plague during his reign, counseled himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." By that standard, to withhold our true emotions is to perpetrate an untruth, to dishonor the person who loves us most when we mutter "I'm fine," behind which lies a storm of anxiety or sorrow. We rob our relationship of authenticity. So, how do we practice courageous vulnerability? First, start small. Share one feeling each day, perhaps an undercurrent of impatience you noticed in traffic, or a fleeting twinge of sadness when you heard a song on the radio. The preface is simply, "I noticed I felt uneasy today," because this isn't a demand for solutions. It's an invitation to be seen. Watch how your partner leans in, offering understanding rather than judgment. Next, reframe vulnerability as strength. Epictetus teaches that our judgments shape our experiences. If you label vulnerability as weakness, each disclosure will feel like an admission of defeat. Instead, call it bravery. Recognize that every time you reveal a fear or a regret, you're flexing the mental muscle of honesty, strengthening the bond, and creating a safe space for your partner to mirror your courage. Finally, honor the Stoic practice of reflection. Each evening, ask yourself, "What did I feel today? How did I respond?" Could you write it down in a few sentences? Over time, you'll notice patterns. Perhaps stress surfaces around finances, or sadness flares when you feel unappreciated. Awareness itself is liberating. Once you see the shape of your emotional life, you can address it directly rather than letting it leak out through frustration or withdrawal. Let me ask you, what might happen if you let your guard down just once? This week, what new understanding could bloom between you and the one you love? In the crucible of honest feeling, you'll find not weakness, but the warmth of true human connection and the inner resilience to face life's storms together. 3. Reacting with anger. Have you ever felt your heart pounding, your vision narrowing, the heat of indignation rising in your chest, only to realize moments later that you've snapped at the person you love most? Anger can feel like a raging river, sweeping us downstream before we've even decided to step in. But the Stoics teach that anger is not an uncontrollable force. It is an impulse that we can learn to recognize, question, and calm. Marcus Aurelius, who endured betrayal by friends and the weight of an empire in turmoil, wrote in his Meditations, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." Think about that for a moment. Your anger may flare at a partner's careless word or a forgotten promise, but the wounds that follow, hurt feelings, broken trust, lingering resentment, are far heavier than the original slight. Why, then, do we so often let that spark grow into a blaze? Anger, at its root, is a judgment that something unjust has occurred. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of the greatest Stoic teachers, reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. The slight itself, whether real or perceived, is indifferent in Stoic terms. What matters is our moment-to-moment choice. Will we react like a tinderbox, or will we pause, take a breath, and choose a different path? Let me share a brief scene. Imagine you and your partner are preparing dinner together. You ask for help chopping vegetables, but they're distracted by their phone and miss what you said. Frustration boils over. You never listen to me. You snap. Their face falls, hurt flashing in their eyes. Later, you both sit at the table in tense silence, the meal cold and flavorless, all because a simple moment of inattentiveness exploded into guilt and anger. What might have happened if, in that instant, you had employed the Stoic pause? Epictetus advised imagining the other person as an actor performing a role, perhaps a distracted partner caught in the habit of multitasking, not a villain intentionally provoking you. That mental shift widens your lens. You see the situation more clearly. There's no malice, only a moment's distraction. You breathe in, count to 10, and choose to speak calmly. Hey, I'd love your help with these peppers when you have a moment. No blame, no explosion. Seneca offers another powerful tool, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He suggests that each morning we envision small setbacks being ignored, facing a delay, or feeling misunderstood. By mentally rehearsing these minor challenges, we inoculate ourselves against surprise and rage. When the actual moment comes, we're already prepared. Our minds aren't caught off guard, and anger loses its grip. Ask yourself, what if you treated your anger as a teacher rather than a tyrant? When you feel that familiar heat, pause and inquire inwardly. What judgment am I making? What outcome do I truly want? More often than not, you'll discover that beneath the anger lies disappointment, fear, or a desire for connection. Acknowledging that softer emotion opens a pathway to honest communication. In the end, mastering anger is not about suppressing emotion, but about transforming it. You retain the spark of passion, your energy redirected into understanding rather than destruction. As Marcus Aurelius urged himself amid endless battles and betrayals, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In relationships, the highest victory is holding fast to your peace, even when provoked. That is true strength, the kind that forgives, the kind that heals, the kind that binds two hearts together in unwavering calm. 4. Chasing external validation. Have you ever found yourself refreshing your messages, waiting for that little seen checkmark to turn into a heartfelt reply, or staring at your phone, wondering if that thumbs up meant more than polite acknowledgement? We live in an age of likes, shares, and follower counts, and it's all too easy to slip into the habit of measuring our worth by external signals. In relationships, this quest for validation can become even more insidious. We seek constant reassurance from our partner. Do you still care about me? Am I enough? And whenever their attention shifts, we feel adrift. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote, the understanding that true value comes from within, from living according to virtue rather than chasing applause. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds himself that if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. We can extend this to our inner dialogue. If the praise isn't an honest reflection of our character, why let it govern our self-esteem? When we anchor our identity in external sources, our partner's mood, the number of compliments we receive, or the applause of friends, we surrender our peace to forces beyond our control. Consider Seneca's counsel that we suffer more, often in imagination than in reality. Picture a man who, after sharing an achievement, a praiseworthy promotion, a poem written for his partner, waits anxiously for a response. Hours pass, and his mind conjures every possible slight. She must not care. She doesn't respect me. I've failed her. Yet when the reply finally arrives, warm, celebratory, the anxiety evaporates. The pain was not in a real rejection, but in the story he told himself. In the gaps between external signals, our imagination ran wild. Epictetus, who began life as a slave and rose to teach emperors, taught that our judgments shape our experience. He urges us to classify externals, wealth, fame, approval, as indifferent. These things are neither good nor bad in themselves. They only become harmful when we let them define us. Ask yourself, does your partner's quiet day on social media diminish your love, or is it your fear speaking? By labeling praise as neutral, we free ourselves to appreciate it without becoming dependent. Let me share a short anecdote. I once knew a man who sought his wife's approval for every decision, from what time he woke up to which shoes he wore. One evening, exhausted, she fell asleep early, and he panicked, afraid he would wake her with a question. He tiptoed around, convinced that without her affirmations, his day would unravel. Finally, he realized that this constant need to check in had built an invisible cage round his spirit. He began practicing small acts of self-validation, affirming his own decisions, journaling 3 things he did well each day, and reminding himself that his worth did not hinge on approval. Over time, he noticed a transformation. Not only did he feel more confident, but his relationship flourished. His wife no longer felt pressured to constantly reassure him, and they could enjoy each other's company without the weight of expectation. So, here's a question for you. What internal virtues do you want to define you? Kindness, perseverance, honesty, compassion. When you ground yourself in these unshakable qualities, external validation becomes a pleasant breeze rather than a storm you must weather. Practice daily affirmations. I acted with integrity today. I showed compassion. I honored my commitments. Let these truths be the measure of your worth. In the end, freedom comes not when we amass cheers from others, but when we stand firm in our moral character. The applause of a crowd may fade, but the quiet conviction of a virtuous life endures, and in that enduring strength, we find the deepest connection with those we love. 5. Failing to listen actively. Have you ever been in a conversation where your mind was already drafting a response before your partner even finished their sentence? We've all been there. You nod, but your thoughts are racing. What you'll say next, how you'll steer the topic back to your point. Yet true connection doesn't blossom from this half listening, it withers. Stoicism teaches that attentive presence is the foundation of genuine understanding, and that begins with mastering our impressions. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire beset by wars and plague, wrote, "When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are." Note that he didn't stop at surface words. He urged himself to look deeper into the speaker's soul and intention. How often do we fail to hear those subtle signals, the tremor in our partner's voice, the pause before they speak, the unspoken weight behind simple words like "I'm fine"? Consider this everyday scenario. You come home exhausted and ask your partner, "How was your day?" They sigh and say, "It was tough." Instead of leaning in, you reply, "Mine was rough, too," and launch into your own story. You both end up talking past each other, each feeling unheard. What if, instead, you paused, made eye contact, and asked, "What made it tough?" Not because you need to fix it, but because you want to understand their world. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to teach Stoic principles, emphasized that our power lies in our judgments. If we judge silence as awkward or listening as idle, we miss its true value. He might counsel, see the opportunity in every pause. In that pause, you offer space. You show your partner that their inner life matters enough to receive your full attention. Seneca offers a vivid image, comparing unreflective speech to arrows shot without aim. When we speak before we listen, our words ricochet off the walls of another's mind and fall harmlessly. But when we listen deeply, paraphrasing with gentle echoes like, "It sounds like you felt overwhelmed," when our responses find their mark, we transform dialogue into a shared exploration. Ask yourself, when was the last time you listened without planning your rebuttal? What if, in your next conversation, you treated each of your partner's words as a gift rather than a prompt? Try this simple practice. After they speak, wait 1 full second before replying. Feel the urge to fill the silence, then let it hang. Notice how your partner relaxes, sensing your genuine curiosity. Active listening also means suspending judgment. Suppose your partner expresses frustration about a decision you made. Instead of thinking they're unfair, drop that thought. Treat their critique as information, not an attack. Marcus Aurelius himself faced criticism daily, yet absorbed it to refine his leadership. He exemplified, receive without pride, let go without attachment. By cultivating this habit, you nurture a sanctuary of trust. Your partner will know they can share their fears, dreams, or doubts, and you will be there, fully present. In that space, love deepens and misunderstandings fade. So, commit today to sharpen your listening. Next time you hear your partner's voice, lean in mind, body, and heart. Ask yourself, what is this moment revealing? In honoring their words, you honor them, and in that honoring, you discover the profound tranquility of a relationship built on attentive presence. 6. Neglecting self-care and boundaries. Have you ever pushed through a late night of work, skipped your morning exercise, and felt that familiar gnaw of exhaustion tug at your focus and your patience with loved ones? We often treat self-care as optional, a luxury for another time, believing that our worth is defined by constant productivity or the ability to shoulder every demand without pause. Yet, as Stoics remind us, our mind and body are sacred instruments of living virtuously. Neglecting them doesn't prove our strength, it erodes it. Marcus Aurelius began each day by reminding himself of his duties to act with justice, to exercise kindness, and to remain patient. But he also knew that a fatigued mind is brittle. In his meditations, he writes of the need to reserve energy for noble acts, as a soldier would conserve strength for battle. If you, like many of us, skip meals or skimp on sleep to meet endless obligations, you'll eventually arrive at your relationship depleted, snapping at small irritations. To drain to offer empathy. Imagine a scenario. You've been logging extra hours to meet a deadline. You finally come home, shoulders heavy, and your partner greets you with a request to talk. You nod, but inside, you're fracturing, irritated, distracted, barely able to muster a calm response. Your partner senses you're elsewhere, and the conversation falls flat. Over time, these moments accumulate, and both of you feel increasingly distant. Seneca offers a powerful antidote, the practice of regular reflection and rest. He writes, "We ought to check every hour whether we are chosen for this work or led away by idle curiosity." In modern life, that idle curiosity might be the tick of your inbox or the lure of late-night social media. Seneca urges us to step back deliberately, to cultivate pockets of stillness, to ask ourselves, is this serving my highest purpose or merely filling a void? And then there are boundaries, the unspoken lines we draw to protect our inner fortress. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to teach Stoicism, taught that it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. If you accept every request, overtime shifts, last-minute favors, relentless social engagements, you're making a judgment that your limits don't matter. But boundaries are not walls of isolation. They are bridges to healthier interactions. By saying no when you need rest, you teach others how to treat you, and you preserve the calm, clear-thinking mind essential for genuine connection. Let's try a small experiment. Designate one sacred hour each day. No screens, no obligations, just quiet. Perhaps you journal, go for a mindful walk, or sit with a cup of tea. Notice how your mood shifts, how your heart rate slows, how your capacity to listen and love deepens. In those moments, you affirm that your well-being matters and your relationships reap the benefit. Ultimately, Stoicism calls us to steward our inner resources wisely. We care for our souls by caring for our bodies, minds, and time. When you honor your need for rest and reflection, you return to your loved ones not as a hollow shell, but as a presence charged with compassion and clarity. So ask yourself, what boundary will you set today to reclaim your strength? In choosing that, you choose the deepest form of love for yourself and for those you hold dear. We've walked through 6 common weaknesses: control, vulnerability, avoidance, anger, external validation, poor listening, and neglecting self-care that can undermine a man's relationships. But remember, recognizing these tendencies is the first step toward mastery. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Each challenge you face in love or friendship becomes an opportunity to practice Stoic virtues and deepen both your inner life and your bonds with others. So what's your next step? Reflect on which of these weaknesses resonates most. Pick one and commit to the practical exercise we discussed. Journal about your progress and share your insights with someone you trust. And if you found value in today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us bring more Stoic wisdom to modern life. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of relationships through the eyes of Stoicism. May your path be guided by clarity, compassion, and unwavering inner strength. Until next time, stay calm, be courageous, and live with purpose.